Have you ever noticed when everything falls apart, some people stay calm, clear, and unshaken? While others panic, they breathe slower. While the world demands a reaction, they choose stillness. That's not luck, it's mindset, and mindset is everything. Not in some cliché way, but in the most powerful, practical sense, because the moment you understand what you can control and stop trying to control what you can't, you take back your freedom, you stop reacting, and you start leading. This video isn't about pretending things are fine, it's about becoming grounded, no matter what life throws at you. Through the timeless wisdom of Stoic philosophy, you'll learn how to reclaim calm, rebuild confidence, and stay steady when the world turns loud. These aren't just ideas, they're tools. Tools to train your mind like a fortress, act from values, not moods, and walk through life with clarity and strength. If you've ever felt overwhelmed or unsure of your worth in a chaotic world, this is your path back to power. So take a breath, stay present, and if this speaks to you, like this video, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications, because your Stoic journey begins now.
Number 1.
Master the only kingdom you own. Imagine standing at the heart of a violent storm. Wind lashes, rain blinds, strangers shout directions you can't possibly follow. Instinct urges you to seize every dangling rope, to force the clouds to part. Yet, as Epictetus warned 2 millennia ago, you possess only one realm, your own mind, everything else. The gusts, the critics, even your heartbeat, lies outside direct command. The moment you accept this, the storm's claws loosen. First, consider Oprah Winfrey. Born into poverty and chaos, she could not dictate the cruelty of relatives or the gossip of neighbors. However, she discovered she could rule the space between stimulus and response. Instead of surrendering to bitterness, she chose relentless self-education and radical ownership of her narrative. Consequently, the external noise became raw material for inner refinement. The girl with no voice forged one that now reaches billions. Her story isn't a fairy tale of luck, but a demonstration of Stoic sovereignty in modern flesh. Moreover, Marcus Aurelius, writing by lamplight while Rome rattled with plague, reminded himself, "The impediment to action advances action." He did not wait for quiet halls. He created them inside his chest. Likewise, you may face a traffic jam, a hostile email, or a sudden market crash. Those events will unfold with or without your consent. Yet you can decide to breathe, to observe, to label thoughts instead of fusing with them. Each deliberate pause is a vote for freedom. Nevertheless, knowing the principle is not living it. Therefore, train daily. Begin with the discipline of morning journaling. Write one page answering, "What can I steer today and what must I release?" This single ritual draws a bold border around your sphere of influence. Next, deploy the 2-second rule. Before replying, buying, or scrolling, count slowly. 1, 2. In that brief pocket, ask, "Is this within my control?" If not, drop it like a stone. If yes, act with full heart. Meanwhile, remember that feelings will object. Your nervous system evolved to chase certainty. When plans shift, cortisol rises, and the mind screams, "Fix everything." Smile at the drama. Seneca observed that we suffer more in imagination than in reality. So ground yourself. Feet on floor, eyes on a single point, breath into belly, anchor attention here and now. The storm stays out there. Furthermore, contemporary neuroscience backs the ancients. Studies at UCLA show that labeling turbulent emotions, "I feel anxious, I feel anger," lowers amygdala activity and restores prefrontal clarity. Every time you name a feeling instead of obeying it, you exercise the Stoic muscle that distinguishes impulse from intention. Science now confirms what the sages intuited. Self-command is a biological skill you can strengthen. Ultimately, the world remains untamed, but your response can become art. Paint that canvas with reason, patience, and principle. Each moment you refuse to micromanage fate, you cultivate the rarest form of power, calm, deliberate presence. That presence steadies friends, confounds detractors, and most importantly, frees you from the chains of events you were never meant to carry. Master this inner kingdom, and no outer kingdom can conquer you.
Number 2.
Build character, not reactions. There's a moment in every life when emotion rises like a flood. Rage after betrayal, fear and uncertainty, grief and loss. Most people surrender to it. They lash out, numb themselves, or spiral in thought. But the Stoic path is different. It doesn't ask you to suppress emotions, but to outgrow them. The Stoics knew feelings are temporary visitors. Character is who stays when the house is empty. And if you let impulse drive your life, you will crash with every wave. Take Nelson Mandela, 27 years in prison, humiliation, injustice, isolation. By all accounts, he should have emerged vengeful, but instead he walked out steady, forgiving, resolved, because in that cell, he trained his response. Day after day, year after year, he chose dignity over bitterness. His outer world was a cage, but inside he cultivated a soul that could not be caged. That is the power of character, unseen but unstoppable. Seneca wrote, "No man is more unhappy than he who never faces adversity, for he is not permitted to prove himself." This is not a call for masochism. It's a blueprint for resilience. Emotional storms are not enemies. They are tests. You don't become calm by avoiding pain. You become calm by sitting with it, studying it, and choosing not to be ruled by it. The more you face discomfort with clarity, the more your inner structure sets like steel. Still, we must be honest. This discipline is difficult. Your emotions will disguise themselves as truth. Your fear will wear the mask of logic. Your anger will speak the language of justice. So the Stoic trains not just in stillness, but in self-suspicion. Is this thought true or just loud? Am I reacting or responding? Questions like these pry open space, and in that space your character speaks. Daily practice matters. When wronged, try delaying your reaction by 1 breath, then 3, then 5. Reflect. What kind of person do I want to be in this moment? With time, you will build a gap wide enough for wisdom to enter. Practice evening reflection, as Marcus Aurelius did. Ask yourself, where did I act from principle? Where did I let emotion lead? Not to shame, but to train. Your mind is a blade. The whetstone is repetition. Even contemporary psychology echoes this ancient wisdom. Studies on emotional regulation show that those who pause and reframe their response tend to make decisions aligned with long-term goals rather than short-term relief. In essence, character is not just noble, it's neurologically efficient. When you learn to slow down and observe, you reduce emotional hijack and restore clarity. And when you fail, and you will, fail forward, that too is Stoic. Each misstep is data, each overreaction, a mirror. Look into it, learn, reset. The goal is not to be emotionless, but to be emotionally mature. That means honoring your feelings but bowing only to your values. Because in the end, anyone can react, but only a few will build the kind of character that remains intact. Storm after storm, season after season, choose to be that person.
Number 3.
Embrace the fire of fate. What if every misstep, delay, or disappointment wasn't a detour, but the exact road you were meant to walk? This is not passive acceptance, it's active alignment with life. The Stoics called it amor fati. The love of fate, it means meeting every twist in the road, not with resistance, but with reverence. Because the more you resist what is, the more power you give to what you can't change. But when you accept, when you align, you become unstoppable. Not because the path is easy, but because you're no longer fighting it. Let's turn to Viktor Frankl, a psychiatrist imprisoned in a concentration camp. He lost everything: his family, his home, his freedom. And yet he emerged with one of the most important psychological insights of the 20th century. In Man's Search for Meaning, Frankl wrote, "When we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves." He didn't glorify suffering, but he also refused to let it define him. In embracing the reality he could not escape, he accessed a deeper form of freedom, one no captor could touch, no system could erase, and no external circumstance could corrupt. Amor fati doesn't mean you enjoy pain. It means you use it. You take heartbreak, failure, delay, and you make meaning from it. You look at the loss and say, this too is part of the path. Because once you stop resisting reality, you begin responding to it with clarity. And in that clarity, you make your next move, not in rage, not in self-pity, but in full presence. That's what makes you powerful. Your ability to say yes to the full weight of life and still stand tall. Marcus Aurelius practiced this mindset in every page of his Meditations. When illness swept through his empire, he didn't curse the gods. He wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." These aren't just poetic lines, they're tactical instructions. Stop longing for a different life. Start shaping the one in front of you. That is the Stoic way. Not fantasy, but form. Not resistance, but cooperation with the nature of things. Of course, your mind will resist. It will whisper, "This shouldn't be happening." But the truth is, it is. And that's the only fact you need. Acceptance doesn't mean defeat. It means you stop wasting energy fighting the tide and start learning how to sail with it. That shift alone changes everything. It allows peace to return, not because life is easier, but because you are clearer. So practice amor fati like a discipline. When something goes wrong, say to yourself, "This is part of it." When someone leaves, when something ends, whisper, "Good, now I can test my strength." These small inner reframes transform obstacles into invitations. They do not remove pain, but they reveal purpose. You don't have to love every event, but if you meet each one with open eyes and an anchored heart, you'll begin to see what the Stoics always knew. The fire was never your enemy. It was the forge.
Number 4.
Confidence can't be taken, only surrendered. Have you ever noticed how quickly we hand over our self-worth? One cold glance, one critical comment, one unexpected silence, and suddenly we shrink. We question who we are. We rehearse old doubts. But here's the truth. No one can steal your confidence. They can insult you. They can ignore you. They can walk away. But your confidence, that's something only you can give away. And the Stoics were relentless in defending this truth. Epictetus wrote, "It's not things themselves that disturb us, but our opinions about them." If someone disrespects you and you believe it defines you, that's not their power. It's your permission. The moment you accept another's judgment over your own reason, you've already lost. Not to them, to yourself, because confidence isn't granted. It's generated. It's not a performance. It's a posture. It doesn't scream. It stands still. It doesn't fluctuate with attention. It's steady, like a mountain rooted in bedrock. Look at Eleanor Roosevelt. Throughout her life, she was criticized, mocked, doubted, but she never let that noise infiltrate her worth. Her power didn't come from applause or agreement. It came from inner anchoring. She once said, "No one can make you feel inferior without your consent." That is not just a quote, it's Stoic doctrine in action. You decide whether an insult becomes a wound. You decide whether someone's absence means you're not enough, And once you reclaim that choice, your power returns. So how do you hold the line in a world that constantly tries to redraw it? First, stop outsourcing your value. If your mood depends on compliments or silence, likes or criticism, then your peace belongs to everyone but you. The Stoic refuses to build a sense of self on shifting terrain. Instead, they root their identity in principles: courage, temperance, clarity, discipline. These are immune to gossip. They are stable, portable, unshakable. Still, let's be honest. The mind is tricky. You might hear a voice saying, "I'm not enough." But stop and ask, whose voice is that, really? You weren't born doubting yourself. That voice was learned, so it must be unlearned. When you catch yourself reaching for validation, ask, if no one saw this moment, would it still be worth doing? That is how you rebuild self-trust, not in public, but in solitude. Repetition rewires belief. Stillness restores clarity. Moreover, confidence grows in silence. The Stoic doesn't beg to be seen. They simply are. Their presence speaks before their words. Their energy speaks without explanation. Ironically, the less you try to prove your worth, the more others feel it. Because nothing radiates power like someone who is unshaken by neglect and unimpressed by attention. So train yourself to return inward. Compliment yourself when no one else will. Stand tall, especially when unnoticed. Choose restraint over reaction. Choose dignity over defense. Confidence is not given by the world, and so the world cannot take it. It is yours to guard, yours to renew, yours to live. In the end, they don't have to believe in you. That was never their job. It's yours.
Number 5.
Act on values, not moods. Most people wait until they feel like it. Feel like working out, feel like being kind, feel like forgiving. But feelings are unreliable. They're weather, sometimes sunny, sometimes stormy, never fully within our control. The Stoics understood this long before modern psychology confirmed it. If you wait to feel good before doing good, your life will be ruled by emotion, not intention. And a life ruled by emotion is a life of chaos, reactive, scattered, fragile. Instead, act from values. Think of your values like a compass, fixed, steady, even when the terrain is unstable. That's how Stoics lived. They didn't ask, "How do I feel about this situation?" They asked, "What does virtue demand of me right now?" It's a question that shifts your focus from self to standard, from comfort to clarity, from reaction to responsibility. And this shift changes everything. Consider Mr. Fred Rogers, the beloved host of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. He wasn't just kind on screen, he was kind on purpose. He rose early every morning, swam, prayed, wrote letters by hand, and mentally prepared himself to be the same man on camera and off. Did he always feel calm? No. Did he always feel confident? Certainly not. But his compass wasn't mood. It was mission. He had values, gentleness, respect, truthfulness, and he practiced them like rituals. That's why his words healed. That's why his presence lingered. Likewise, Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, at every moment, keep a sturdy mind on hand. He was emperor of the most powerful empire in the world, yet he didn't trust his feelings. He trusted his practice, tiredness, jealousy, anger. These moods visited him too, but he chose not to let them speak for him. Instead, he leaned into what he had decided mattered: wisdom, justice, self-restraint, and duty. Through this lens, each day became not a test of comfort, but a test of consistency. So how do we apply this? We build structure, we design a life where values show up even when emotions don't. A morning routine, a journaling practice, a vow to not speak when angry, a commitment to walk when your thoughts feel heavy. These acts seem small, but they declare something big. I act because it's right, not because I'm ready. And yes, you'll fall short, everyone does. But Stoicism doesn't punish you for failure. It trains you through it. When you slip, reflect. Was that my mood speaking or my values? This isn't moral perfection, it's moral direction. And the more you steer toward principle, the more stable you become. Importantly, Stoicism doesn't say, feel less. It says, be ruled less. Your emotions are data, not dictators. Let them speak, but do not hand them the steering wheel. Let values drive and let emotions ride in the back. That's real strength, not suppressing the storm, but steering through it. Because in the end, your moods will fade, but the person you become through disciplined action, that endures, that's who looks back at you in the mirror. Not a perfect person, but a principled one. And in a world chasing quick highs, that kind of presence is rare. That kind of presence is unforgettable. Number 6, train your mind like you train your muscles. Physical strength never arrives by accident. You lift, you sweat, you rest, and you repeat. Day after day, until fibers tear and rebuild themselves into something sturdier. The mind works the same way, yet most people expect mental resilience to appear on demand, like flicking a switch. The Stoics rejected that illusion. They treated inner strength as a discipline, a daily set of reps designed to turn fragile thoughts into fortified convictions. First, consider Maya Angelou. Before she became a voice of luminous courage, she spent years honing her craft through deliberate routine. She woke before dawn, rented a bare hotel room, and wrote longhand until noon, rain or shine, inspiration or drought. That ritual wasn't about chasing mood. It was about training focus. Every page was a push-up for her mind, teaching it to hold attention, wrestle doubt, and finish what it started. Her brilliance then was not a gift dropping from the sky, but the compound interest of countless invisible workouts. Marcus Aurelius applied the same principle. His meditations were never meant for public eyes. They were private drills, a soldier emperor strengthening his rational core before confronting plague, betrayal, and political intrigue. Each reflection was a mental deadlift. Remind yourself death is near. Remind yourself anger is weakness. Remind yourself virtue is sufficient. Over time, those pages became mental calluses, enabling him to carry the weight of an empire without crumbling. So how do you replicate their regimen? Begin with micro workouts. The moment you wake, journal for 5 minutes. 1 worry, 1 gratitude, 1 intention. This simple warm-up teaches your mind to observe itself instead of drowning in its own chatter. Next is sprinkle pause reps throughout the day. Whenever your phone buzzes, resist the urge for just 3 breaths. Notice the craving, label it, let it pass. That single act isometrically strengthens impulse control. Moreover, build a mental gym. Choose environments that challenge concentration. Read dense philosophy instead of quick headlines. Practice stillness in a noisy cafe, or hold silence during an awkward conversation. Progressively overload your attention the way athletes add plates. If it feels uncomfortable, good, you're tearing mental fibers so they can regrow thicker. Importantly, track your sets. At night, perform an evening audit, echoing Seneca's practice. Ask, where did I react mindlessly? Where did I remain composed? Celebrate the reps completed. Note the form breakdowns. This feedback loop converts experience into adaptation, ensuring tomorrow's mind lifts heavier with cleaner technique. Finally, respect recovery. Just as muscles need rest, the mind needs quiet. Turn off screens an hour before bed. Walk without earbuds. Let boredom enter. It's the mind's deep tissue massage. flushing residual noise and preparing you for the next session of life. Do this consistently and the results become visible, not on a scale, but in moments of crisis. When the unexpected strike arrives, you feel the difference. Heartbeat steady, breath measured, thoughts clear. People will call you naturally calm. Smile. You will know it isn't nature, it's training. Repeated until discipline became reflex, and reflex became freedom. Number 7, let death be your North Star. Most people avoid thinking about death. It feels grim, heavy, uncomfortable. But to the Stoics, death wasn't darkness. It was clarity. It stripped away illusion, distraction, and ego. They practiced memento mori. Remember you must die, not to dwell in fear, but to awaken fully. Because when you remember life is finite, you stop wasting it. You stop waiting. You start living. Steve Jobs once said, "Remembering that you are going to die is the best way I know to avoid the trap of thinking you have something to lose." He wasn't a Stoic by title, but he practiced this principle like one. After being diagnosed with cancer, Jobs didn't just work harder. He simplified. He cut what didn't matter. He stopped pretending. Death didn't shrink his life, it sharpened it. And in that sharpening, he created his most meaningful work. Seneca echoed this thousands of years earlier. Let us prepare our minds as if we'd come to the very end of life. Let us postpone nothing. For him, death wasn't just a future event. It was a filter for the present. It asked one piercing question again and again. Is this essential? Suddenly, much of what we cling to, resentment, vanity, comparison, dissolves under its gaze. What remains is pure, clarity, intention, love. When you ignore death, you drift, but when you honor it, you steer. Life stops being something to survive and becomes something to sculpt. You stop putting things off because you realize time is not a guarantee, it's a gift. Every conversation becomes sacred. Every sunrise becomes a call to return. You don't need more time, you need more presence. And presence is born when you remember how little time you truly have. To apply memento mori isn't to live in fear, it's to live in focus. Try this. Once a week, ask yourself what you'd change if you had 1 year left. 1 month, 1 week. Don't panic, just pay attention. Patterns will emerge, things you keep delaying, words you never say, passions you ignore. That's your truth trying to break through the noise. That's your soul asking for honesty. Also practice subtraction. Ask, what would I walk away from if I knew my days were numbered? This might be a toxic habit, a conversation you're avoiding, a job that depletes your spirit. Letting go becomes less terrifying when you realize holding on is costing you time you'll never get back. You can recover money, you can rebuild status, but you cannot buy more minutes. And remember, this practice isn't about rushing, it's about refining, slowing down, choosing deeply. When you walk with death beside you, you walk truer. You become less reactive, more intentional. You stop trying to do more and start trying to become more. So look at your calendar, your habits, your relationships, and ask, would I still choose this if I remembered how temporary everything is? If not, maybe that's where the real work begins. Not in fearing death, but in letting it cleanse your priorities. Let death clarify what truly deserves your life. Number 8, calmness is the ultimate power. Walk into any crowded room and observe. The loudest voice rarely belongs to the strongest person. Noise can be purchased, volume can be faked, but genuine calm, steady eyes, measured breath, deliberate speech must be earned. The Stoics believed that true power is silent because it lives under your own command. When the inner waters stay clear, no external storm can drown you. Consider Roger Federer. In the high-pressure arena of Grand Slam finals, opponents smash rackets and shout at umpires. Federer, by contrast, adjusts his headband, exhales, and serves. Reporters once asked how he maintained such composure during match points. He explained that he saw tension as an ally, not an enemy. Each rapid heartbeat became a metronome guiding his rhythm. His victories, then, were not merely athletic, they were philosophical. Proof that calmness extends focus, and extended focus wins battles far beyond the baseline. Marcus Aurelius provides the ancient blueprint. He wrote, "The nearer a man comes to a calm mind, the closer he is to strength." This wasn't poetic musing, it was battlefield strategy against plagues, uprisings, and relentless politics. Rather than matching panic with panic, he cultivated stillness, creating a pocket of clarity where solutions could breathe. Calmness for him was not withdrawal. It was superior engagement. Yet achieving calmness isn't passive. It's not sitting on a cushion waiting for serenity to drip from the ceiling. It's active restraint, forged through micro-decisions. To build it, begin with physiology. Lengthen each exhale to twice the inhale, activating the vagus nerve, lowering cortisol, opening space for reason. This isn't new age. It's neurobiology catching up to Stoicism. Next, master the silent count. Before responding to provocation, whether a sarcastic email or a family argument, count to 4 in your head. Those 4 seconds are a moat protecting your clarity. Attackers expect instant reaction. Silence confuses them, and composure returns to you. Practice until response time becomes ritual power, never a leak of energy. Furthermore, curate your sensory diet. Constant headlines, alerts, and arguments are junk food for the nervous system. Limit exposure. Replace it with deliberate inputs. A walk at dawn, a chapter of Seneca, gentle music without lyrics. Replace mindless scrolling with purposeful stillness, and you'll discover that quiet is a renewable fuel for insight. What you consume sets the baseline for how quickly your mind floods. So choose slowly, live slowly. Of course, setbacks will test you. You'll snap at a colleague. You'll rush a decision. When that happens, conduct a calmness audit. Ask, what triggered me? What belief flared up? What would a calmer self have done? This post-game analysis isn't self-punishment, it's training. Just as Federer reviews match footage, review moments of noise, learning to return to stillness faster each time. Ultimately, calmness is audible. People feel it in your presence like a lowered temperature. They lean in, speak softer, mirror your rhythm. That's influence without force, leadership without volume, and it begins inside your ribcage, one breath at a time. Practiced until silence becomes your strongest sentence. Hold that silence and watch chaos obey. You've just learned 8 timeless truths, each a tool, not just a concept. But remember, understanding Stoicism doesn't come from nodding along. It comes from practice, from choosing silence over reaction, values over mood, presence over distraction, and from waking up every day willing to train your mind like a muscle. No matter how the world behaves, this isn't about perfection, it's about direction. And if you start walking, one breath, one principle, one choice at a time, you'll feel it. The ground gets steadier, the noise gets quieter, you become your own anchor. If this video sparks something in you, don't just keep it to yourself. Like it, share it, and subscribe. Because the world doesn't need more noise. It needs more people living with clarity, calm, and conviction. And that journey, it continues right here with us